Welcome to Young Blossom 25 Future Leaders Revealed. I'm Inga, and with me is Vaios, my co-host. Today with us is Theodora Vogli, who is joining us for a conversation about future of leadership to share her perspective on multi-generational workplaces. A very warm welcome. Theodora is an accomplished HR leader in Greece, serving as employee and labor relations manager at Procter Gamble since 2020. She brings expertise in employee relations, talent management, and inclusion initiatives, combined with academic credentials from both the National University of Athens as well as Newcastle University. Theodora is known for advancing diversity and empowering professionals in Greek workplaces. This is, Theodora, what Perplexity AI had to say about you. Obviously, it's missing the human touch, and we're very curious about who are you?
Okay, it's quite interesting though that it got a very nice summary, at least for my CV, one that I can use there. In terms of personal life, I'm a proud Athenian, born and raised here. And I really enjoy going to the theater, going abroad as well. I love traveling and spending quality time with my friends and family. Other than that, I think you have it covered, Inga.
Fantastic. And just for our listeners, tell us maybe how old you are, or tell us which generation do you belong to?
I believe I'm a millennial with the conventional
Definition?
characteristics. Yes, and the categories that we have nowadays. I was born in 95, so I'm 30 years old. I try to avoid it as much as possible, but I couldn't.
Yeah, you are exactly at the crossroad of millennial and Gen Z. Lovely to have you on the show. And before we jump in, just a reminder to our listeners, this is a podcast where we are having conversations with future leaders to gain first-hand understanding from them about their approach to work, life, learning, progress. And equally, we're welcoming current leaders on the show to share the insights and provoke how working environment and potentially also learning institutions need to adapt to set up younger generation for success.
Great. A very warm welcome from my side, Theodora. I guess when we first started putting a list with Inga, when we designed Young Blossom 25, your name was one of the first that we thought through, because I truly believe you are one of those future leaders that we're gonna hear a lot as we go along, and I'm looking forward to see what you're gonna do, obviously in Procter, because we all know that someone in Procter never leaves Procter. So let's deep dive into a new episode. My first question is always the same, never changes, and I would like to ask you, what is your perspective on the generational gap? Is there a Gen Z? Is it something that you see different in that generation?
So let's accept that it exists, the generational gap. I remember when I was younger, I thought that I would always be able to understand the future generations and I wouldn't get to this point because of the freshness and the different perspective. Well, surprise, surprise, it was not the case, obviously. And I can see that now clearly. Of course, the distance between the millennials and the Gen Z representatives is not that huge, but at the same time, we notice that it can be chaotic at some points. And this is also fascinating because it's our differences that create the interesting parts in life. I truly believe that. So it's a new learning opportunity for everyone, both millennials and the previous generations, and even Gen Z representatives, because it's a matter of adapting, changing, and getting together. So we are all together in this. It's not something that one generation has to do on their own. We all have to work together somehow.
I can fully see this, and my view is, or my question to you is, do you see any characteristics from the people you hire, from the people you work with, from the people you socialize with regards to this generation that is completely different compared to mine, Inga's, yours?
I think what strikes me the most is that they have an opinion, a strong one, and they're not afraid to voice it. They, to my eyes, Gen Z people do not really look for others to understand it. It's just their opinion. They have their arguments about it, etc. It doesn't matter how much us millennials and the rest are going to fight to defend our opinions, we're not going to change their minds easily. And that's admirable, of course. And also, I really admire them for the fact that they're changing their perspective on how people see life and what really matters. They, especially, I mean, for Gen Z people in Greece, at least, they grew up in a very challenging period from an economic point of view. And they saw their parents struggling. They knew things would be difficult, maybe growing up, etc. So I think they shifted a bit their attention to other things that fulfill them.
And what are these other things that you believe fulfill this generation?
I think it's maybe this shift to well-being, personal well-being, to uh, having clear boundaries between work and personal life, and spending time with their friends, with their family sometimes. Okay, not that often, maybe. And also being able to set boundaries in general, being clear about what they want, what they do not want. For previous generations, I think there was a lot more pressure from society on what needs to be done, what they have to do, how they need to behave. Now everything for Z people is a bit more fluid, and they embrace their identity, their personal identity, in a much more natural and organic way than previous generations did in the past.
Funny thing, I had a conversation with one of the biggest CHROs here in the market some days ago, and we were talking specifically about Gen Z, and she was telling me, is it a matter of people of Gen Zers being different, less norm, more focus on their well-being, etc., or is it also a matter of less self-awareness? Because she used to believe, from the people she's working with, that it's also very, very important, especially for this generation, somehow to build self-awareness. How do you see that? What's your perspective on that?
I don't really agree with this opinion. I do think they're self-aware, and I think they're actually aware of many more things than we were in the past. I think Gen Z is the generation that fights for our climate, for sustainability, for social rights, for LGBTQI plus rights, everything. So this, to me, shows a generation that's very empathetic and very aware of what its surroundings are. It all lies down to whether we have actually reached that level of understanding between generations, because what is really self-awareness for one person might not be the same for another one. And the way that we deal with difficult situations is not common for all. Every person has their own way to deal with stress, with problems in personal life, in professional life, and everything. So maybe opening up the dialogue would help a bit to have a better understanding of what they perceive as self-awareness.
Great point. Inga?
And how do you see the willingness to learn and to create an understanding? And maybe in your work environment, you see that, open as a workplace when Gen Z comes in and starts to, giving you all the things straight in your face?
Well, let's start with the fact that we need to adapt if we want to survive. Not just my company, but every company. We all need to make this step and go forward and find ways to attract and retain the Gen Z talent. It's simply vital to maintain business and have a future. Now, when it comes to adapting, I think since you mentioned training opportunities, Inga, I feel that this is the generation that really is thirsty and wants to grasp every piece of information and knowledge that they can from their environment. But again, I don't think that they wish to do that by conventional forms of training, what we had in our minds in the past, and especially before the COVID era, when we would gather around in a training classroom type of room, and we had an instructor, and they would pass on the knowledge to the audience, and that was it. No, I feel that now it's more about personal intent. They value some relationships which are based on the typical mentor-mentee relationship, any coaching opportunities they may have on the practical side of their job, and also training and learning experiences which are a bit more interactive and allow them to actually share their opinion and get actual feedback on it.
And I think learning and them being thirsty for knowledge and knowledge being perceived as part of development, that comes a lot in the conversation that we had so far here on the show. Let me go back a step. Why do you think it is so hard for the current leadership generation? Let me put it this way, to not say Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y, but whoever is in charge today, why do you think it's so hard for us to make a step towards that generation? And I'm saying that because you gave a very politically correct and diplomatic answer, is to say we all can, do better and do a little. I totally agree. Why do you think it's so hard for us to make that step forward?
I think fear is a good
What do we
answer to
fear?
that. So my thoughts are that, and I include myself in this, is that Gen Z people are very familiar with technology. As we move back to generations, we see that people are less and less familiar with it. And if I take myself as well as an example, being a millennial, I'm not that comfortable with all types of technology, and I'm not utilizing all the tools that we have available nowadays to do my job more efficiently and be more productive. So when you have someone that comes and takes a seat at the table and they use tools and they use language that's gibberish basically to you, I think that this can be intimidating because it also exposes the rest of us and maybe brings this self-awareness that Vaios mentioned before, makes us realize that we are the ones that actually need to step up and go back to learning, go back to educating ourselves, and maybe finding new ways to approach things. So we don't really understand it. And I think it's also a natural reaction, a human reaction. When you don't understand something, most of the times we just reject it first, and then we fight it a bit, and then after a while we will start maybe trying to think it through and understand it better.
Do you see a difference how that generation enters workplace versus how you entered workplace? Like, do you see substantial difference?
Definitely. I see that this generation enters the workplace as if they owned it. And I really like that because it was definitely not my case in the past. I was super scared and very intimidated. And I think this was the norm for the previous generations. But this new one has a lot of courage and attitude, but in a good way. I mean, when they enter a new workplace. And as I said before, they set their own boundaries and they are open to learning. But at the same time, I feel like they don't really, they observe a bit the room as well. And they don't give 500% of what they have on day one. They just build on it little by little. And I feel that this is more sustainable at the end of the day, because what we did in the past was do our best on day one, and then we wouldn't realize that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and you need to take it slowly in order to be at your best um, on a daily or on a more stable basis. Let's.
I love this, Soringa. I love this. And I'm just trying to understand and also reflect on something, used to believe, at least. Is it also what you're mentioning, Theodora, part of the game, why we believe that this is a generation that is less engaged nowadays? So you do something, you try to convince your audience, the people that are in your team, but you always have that feeling that the Gen Zer is sitting in the corner, having their own views and not being so much into what you're presenting, while the rest of the room is 100% there. Is it part of what you're saying that explains what I feel, at least?
Could be, yes, because this is also a generation that is a bit more not exactly introverted, but rather not that interested in politics as we knew them in the past. They will not. What I have observed is that they will not network work just because it will help them advance or get the perks of knowing your boss, etc. They will sit aside and they will just observe, as we said before. So could be as well, because in the past what we learned was that the more engaged you seem, the more people will think that you're working, the more etc. So it's all about face, basically.
Sounds so familiar.
At the same time, I really, I'm torn with myself when I try to debate it back and forth, because what you say resonates a lot. And we have the louder you are, if you're expressive, you're present, this is how, and not that skills and competency don't count, but there are two skilled people with good competencies or equal competencies. One is shy introvert and does the work quietly. And the other one is like on stage selling it all day long and is like really vocal about it. That person will progress. The other one will not. I'm generalizing a bit, but we get the picture, right? Like it's a lot harder. Now we have a generation where everybody's the same. They're all same flat. And we are misreading this same flat as not interested, but they just are interested in other things. And as you say, they're not interested in politics. They're not interested in, doing networking. But they expect also for things for them to happen. So how do we bridge the gap here? Because we kind of both sides need to come a bit closer. And I feel like from our conversation, what we get is Gen Z is explaining why they are the way they are. Go figure. We're like, oh, okay, so now I understand what loyalty means to you. Now I understand how to engage you. So it feels like I need to make a lot of effort. Is there effort on the other side? Do you see them making an effort to come closer?
And how much of a compromise is that? Sorry to put a little bit on the discussion. Compromise is a word that I truly hate, but everything has trade-offs within.
We also need to take into account that we're talking about people born in the late 90s, let's say, and even younger than that. So very young professionals. We're talking about people who have just started in the job market, who
Correct.
might be experiencing their first actual job aside from the jobs, part-time jobs that maybe they had while at university, etc. So it's also a matter of being a bit not too demanding, I would say, because you cannot expect from someone in their 20s to have the same attitude, same understanding, same maturity and experience that come from experiences, actually, as someone in their 40s, in the 50s, and so on. So we are all people, we're learning, so we need to give them some space as well to grow and learn within the job industry, the same way that we have to learn as well from them. Because I think that at the end of the day, they do appreciate people around them. Maybe not everyone by definition, let's say, just because they have a strong position in the company hierarchy, etc. But if they find someone that they respect and admire, then we see a change in their attitude as well at that point. That's my perception so far.
Interesting. I guess I can see that, and I'm challenging a little bit the different parties here just to create some tension. I wonder how well they can take feedback. They're very good at giving feedback. They're quite straightforward with it. Are they as good as taking it in if somebody is straightforward back to them? What's your experience?
I would take a step back again because I really love feedback personally. And even though I like getting feedback, even negative one, if it has some justification with it, what I found really difficult was to actually give feedback. And I think that this is the real issue here. Not about people not being able to receive it, but rather other people who maybe are not so good at giving feedback and making it sound meaningful and constructive, because just telling someone that their job is not good is not proper feedback to me. It gives me nothing to work with. I feel that this is a major issue that we have in the business industry and generally in our society nowadays. We tend to have an opinion, but we haven't really thought it through to understand how we got there, and how we can have a good intention in giving feedback to someone to actually help them with it. I think that it's basically that our feedback is not so constructive and well set up. But at the same time, I don't think that they're that negative to feedback, to be honest, Inga. I feel that they receive it. Maybe they have the same attitude sometimes as with any other topic. That's why we feel they're not very good at
Maybe, yeah.
receiving it. Yes.
Could be. And what's your experience? Feedback is a good transition. What's your experience with that generation? How do they handle difficult situations?
Okay, so here I think that ghosting is a very nice word to put it. Yes, avoidance exists. But it's something that has spread again across the society. It starts with technology that facilitates it a lot. It's very easy to disappear from social media chat, from a network that's virtual. So we tend to transfer that to real life, and it happens in business as well. I'm sure you have experienced it, for example, with candidates as well that disappeared in the middle of the recruiting process and gave no signs of life. And here, something that I notice is that maybe this generation is a bit more reluctant to provoking or entering situations that might provoke a certain type of conflict. There is some avoidance there for sure. And that's why they tend to leave without getting into a lot of discussion in order to avoid that.
Yeah, I think that is a very good point. And I actually, when we are reaching out to Gen Zs that are not part of the network, but we see somebody via who might be interesting, and then we reach out to them. Ghosting is a good thing. I don't know it. I don't understand it enough. Let me not bother. So that's one piece, and I think that happens also in every generation that you ghost people. I think ghosting in general has become a lot more. Yeah. And the other piece that I also noticed when they engage and when they reach a point that they're not sure, they start to have doubts instead of say, hey, you know what? I'm not sure. I don't feel comfortable anymore. I really have doubts whether I should be doing it. And I had that experience with a couple of people that we kind of kicked off the conversation. We met, we discussed, and then they disappeared. I'm like, what happened? Did I do something wrong?
It's not you, Inga, for sure.
That's why I have Vaios on the show, so that he can encourage me and give me the confidence.
I guess this.
But there's a thing that they don't want to face, that whatever created the discomfort, they don't want to necessarily face it. And it's easy to switch off and just, disappear, because there are so many follow-up messages you're going to send, right? Like you don't want to become a stalker.
But then again, I feel that this is the The biggest contrast, compared to previous generations, where we wouldn't do that. Our parents wouldn't do that for sure, because what would people say if I disappeared, if I didn't answer, etc. And then you see people who grew up feeling obligated to do things that they didn't want to, just because they couldn't say no. So I think that Gen Z people grew up in societies, in families with people who cannot say no and who are obligated to do things just because. It's maybe a form of, let's say, resistance to this kind of attitude, and again, to trying to set their own boundaries so as not to become like their parents, like their grandparents, etc. And maybe the next generation, the one that comes after the Z, will bring some more balance to it.
Yeah, I think that it's two different things. So one thing is you set boundaries, and setting boundaries is, again, communication is part of setting boundaries. And they're very comfortable saying, you know what? Until here is work, and this is my life, and it's none of your business. Very comfortable. It's when the situation is uncomfortable and they have to communicate back, that's why they disappear, because it's uncomfortable. And we had here in the second episode, we discussed it a bit with a coach. So she's coaching organizations, she's coaching Gen Z, she's coaching executives. And she brought it up as well that the conflict, they haven't really learned conflict. They didn't experience enough conflicts because they didn't go enough to the playground, because at the age of 5, they got an iPad. So they were watching Paw Patrol and Peppa Pig. But it is very important to be on the playground and, take away the toys from the other kids and kind of resolve conflict situation that we all experience a lot more, but less and less so with age, right? And because they haven't learned it, that's why the ghosting element is a lot more common in that generation, and probably in the following generation will be even more potentially when a difficult situation arises. It's always when something is difficult. That's why they resign. And then you say, well, what happened? I thought we were doing well. And they're like, oh, I found another job. No, I get that. But the other job is just an outcome. What led to you even having interviews? Oh, yeah, but you told me in the feedback that you didn't say something nice to me, or you said something that I thought you're not happy with me. So interpretation, but not confrontation. And confrontation doesn't have to be negative, right? Hey, help me understand. Hey, what does that mean? Hey, what are you saying? That happens very little.
I do agree with that. And it's a prevalent phenomenon indeed.
So how do we train them better? Like, how do we help them with this?
Well, I'm not really sure if you can train someone in the conventional type.
Not train. I'm
Yes.
meaning helping.
But help them. What I try to do personally, even in my personal relationships, because even though I'm millennial, I do have some friends who are part of the Gen Z. They want to hang out with me. So what I do is that I try to lead by example. So if I have something that bothers me, I learned that this is not the generation that will actually start the talking. I have to do it myself, and maybe show them not exactly how it's done, but rather what I need from this human relationship in order to make it work. Same way that I try to do it at work with fellow colleagues who are Gen Z people themselves. I think it's important to approach them with good intentions, positive ones, to show that you're coming with friendly vibes only. Again, I go back to feedback. I ask for feedback a lot when it comes to how I do things, and I give feedback myself always with some good, let's say, ways in order to help people improve at what I mentioned as a potential issue, for example. And I realized that direct confrontation is not a good form of communication for those people. And that's why I always try to approach little by little and earn basically the space that they are willing to give to me.
Last question, because you mentioned feedback from my side, in terms of feedback, do you get, because you're working obviously also in multinational, big corporate organization, as did I, as does Vaios, where feedback loops are very structured, they have specific timings, they're formalized, and we kind of got used to that. Those of us who are working many years in different or in the same corporation, Gen Z doesn't seem to be very perceptive to that. They're actually demanding, in a good way, they're demanding feedback on the spot. Don't collect all the things for 6 months and then come after 6 months and tell me all the things I did wrong. I want this because they're hungry to learn. They want to understand, are they doing, like, are they on the right track? Are they doing well? What do they need to adjust? How do they need to adopt? How do you see that in your corporate environment?
I really like that as an idea, and I really embrace it in my daily life as well. I think, okay, so basically, why do we work? We work for money. We work, well, yes, we work for personal ambition. We work because society tells us that we need to work to be productive, etc. And what we get out of it is, aside from the financial benefit, is also those little moments of reward where we feel valued, etc. So why make it once per year, twice per year when you announce something positive to the person you have in front of you, and not make it, if not daily, on like twice per week, once per week, etc. Because it gives you the opportunity to share some positive feedback, or if you have negative feedback and you leave it just to share it all together at the end of the year, then it feels like a mountain that the person cannot really climb, and there is no light ahead of them. If you show people that you respect their work and you value it, and that's why you give the feedback to help them get to the right level where the job, where the company wants them to be, and where they can be actually based on their skill set, I think they will be more open to it in the end.
Great. No, I think the perspective here is so crystal clear, and it's a perspective that we didn't have from the previous episode. So it really adds up to the collective knowledge that we're trying to build up through Young Blossom 25, and you made it very, very easy. Theodora, thank you so much for that. Conscious of time, we have one more important element.
Exactly. Yeah. Are you familiar with the lightning round?
Not really.
So lightning round is, I'm going to ask really fast-paced questions, and there is just an answer that only you can have. And don't overthink it. Just throw it out there. So it's more fun if you don't think about it too much. What is your favorite chat channel?
WhatsApp,
Social media you spend the most time on?
TikTok,
You get your music from?
Spotify,
You get your podcasts from?
Spotify,
Physical books or audiobooks?
physical books,
What is one skill you would recommend Gen Z to learn?
time management,
What is one skill you would Gen X, Gen Y recommend to learn?
anything related to AI.
A famous person you would like to meet?
Well, not alive, but Frida Kahlo.
Why?
She's an inspiration still. Her way
Okay,
of life, everything about her, yes.
very nice. Well, it was fantastic having you on the show. I took quite a few nuggets with regards to how we can bridge the gap. I think we always open the question, do you see the gap? Because that's going to determine a bit the conversation. So far, everybody acknowledges there is a gap. I think today we focused a lot more, how do we bridge it and how do we bring things together? You're clearly an advocate of that generation, and I hope they appreciate that. You are making a very conscious effort, and if you're making a conscious effort and you're part of, the people function, as many companies start to call it, then we can tell that the company is making a conscious effort to also bridging that gap, which is, I think, beautiful. And there is a starting point. Like, we need to start somewhere, right? And it always starts with some people. And that's what it takes to get it further. So thank you so much for joining and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you as well for the invitation. I spent a lovely time with you, and you made me feel very comfortable. That's me giving feedback here.
Thank you.
And
I
well done
told
for
you.
the initiative.
Thank you. I told you we're good people, so we really like to hear the feedback. I guess it's just me saying that Young Blossom 25 is live and running with several episodes now, and we are continue building with future leaders like Theodora. You can find us whenever you get your podcast from, including YouTube. Until next time, see you.
See you.
Bye.